As I make this new video, I'm still very early in my YouTube career, day 2 to be exact, and because of that, clearly I don't have any followers yet. So for me, this is an opportunity to build background content and also to experiment and get more sophisticated in my video production. At this point, there is no real reason for me to discuss anything particularly pertinent or relevant in life or in news, because quite frankly, by the time anybody really gets to watch these videos, it won't really be very pertinent anymore. With that in mind, I'm still going to share with you some anecdotes from my past that were pretty influential to me. The first took place when I think I was in middle school. It was winter time, Christmas break, and I had a couple of my friends sleeping over at my house for the night. We were up very early, and we decided that we were going to go outside and have a snowball fight and build a snow fort and that kind of thing. As we were building our snow fort, we got kind of a mischievous streak, as kids that age are prone to do. And as we were rolling our big snow boulders, we realized that the subdivision that we lived in had several blocks, and they were all had to go through this one primary intersection. We decided it might be funny to block off the intersection with these big snow boulders that we were making. And that's what we did. We made about 5 of them and rolled them right in the middle of the street. That's where we left them, and we watched and wanted to see what would happen. It didn't take very long for the first car to come by and come to our snow boulders and come to a stop, and we watched to see what would happen. I was very shocked at what happened next. The car stopped and waited some more. A few moments went by, and a second car came up from a second direction, and it did pretty much the same thing the first car did. It stopped and waited. In only a minute or so, there were about 4 cars there, and then someone began to honk. Still to this day, I'm not completely sure who that person was honking at. Were they honking at the other drivers, or the snowball, or the people in the houses nearby? I really don't know. What I do know is that soon other drivers joined in, all honking at the snowballs or each other, or whoever it is they were honking at. I'm not really certain. What I do know is that honking was not going to do anything to solve their situation. I was baffled by the fact that it had taken so long before somebody finally got out of their car and moved the snow boulders out of the way. In retrospect now, I do of course realize that it probably had something to do with them wearing work clothing and not wanting to get dirty and such like that. But I never really understood what the honking was about. Perhaps they were venting frustration, perhaps they just simply didn't know what else to do. What I did know is that when I grew up, I wanted to be the one who got out of the car and moved the boulder, and not the one who honked the horn. My second anecdote has to do with my time in Boy Scouts, or actually I think it was Cub Scouts back then. I was attending a small private school, and my Cub Scout troop was looking for a place to have our meetings at. Meeting after school at the school gym seemed like the reasonable time and place, so I decided the best thing to do was to ask the principal if this was something that we could arrange. At the time, I thought it was a fairly reasonable request, not a big deal. The teachers were never gone for at least an hour after the school day ended. But the principal's response threw me for a bit of a loop. She told me that we couldn't do it because nobody would be there to turn the lights on or off. I may only have been in grade school, but I had long mastered the art of the light switch. But even though that's what we were actually talking about, that's not what she meant. What she meant is that there is an electrician that worked for the school, and by contract, only the electrician was able to turn on and off the power and the lights for the common areas of the school. And because the school clearly didn't want to pay an electrician's overtime to stay and turn on and off a light switch, there would not be any Cub Scout meetings in that hall. I think it's this experience that first soured me to the idea of organized labor. Not so much the fundamental goals of organized labor, but more the unintended consequences of such rigid adherence to rules and contracts and such. Don't get me wrong, I think contracts are a wonderful thing. I began to question the power dynamics that would compel a school to sign a contract with an electrician that would require the electrician to be there all the time, not to actually do electrical work, not to wire things or fix outlets, but to literally turn on light switches. Even the school principal's reaction when she told me this in the first place suggested to me that she was not too happy with this arrangement. I had to assume that there was some power dynamic in play that I didn't quite understand yet that would force the school to make this very poor decision. It wasn't the contract that I had the problem with. It was the fact that I knew behind the scenes there was coercion that made one party, the school, sign the contract that they clearly did not necessarily want to sign those terms to. This incident played a very large role in the opinions that I would have later about organized labor. and those are an opinion I'll get into in a later video. Again, thanks for taking your time to come and watch my video.